Hello and welcome to another Revel Coach Conversation. Today, we are lucky to have Virginia Balch with us. I am Alison Nissen, co-founder with my sister, Marcy Stoudt, and we love to bring shows to you that enhance your experience as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as an executive. And Virginia's got quite a story because she has spent 15 years in the corporate world and then launched into her own entrepreneurial journey as a travel, what do you call it now? Virginia, you introduce yourself. You're going to do a better job than me.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to get to talk with you both today. We call it travel advisor or travel designer. The term agent, I don't know. I think it's just maybe a little more of an archaic term. So we don't hear that word in the industry as much, but tomato, tomato.
I love that. Okay, that's great. Yes, travel advisor. It does sound really exciting. So what's the latest hacks that you have? I'm just going to sidestep all the main questions and go straight to the heart of it. Like, what's the biggest tip right now for travel?
I think, being open-minded. I think the reality is between inflation and post-COVID, just the price of mostly international travel, but even domestic has gone up significantly. So a lot of the conversations I'm having with my clients revolve around like maybe they think they want Italy, but the budget might not work for the kind of trip they would want. So being open-minded to other countries that are still going to give you that amazing wine, food, culture experience, but will be more aligned with what your comfort zone is from a budget standpoint. So I think just being open-minded, and there's so many amazing places around the world that maybe Instagram and TikTok aren't like talking about all the time. And that's where I come in because I'm an expert and spend all my time researching, watching webinars, talking to colleagues about those more unique places where, not everyone is posting about on Instagram.
That's wonderful. And I'd love to hear like how you got started. Like, have you always been a traveler? Like, have you always had a passion around traveling and finally you're launching your dream? Or tell us how you kind of got here to being a travel advisor.
Yeah, I've always loved to travel. I grew up in Southern California, but my extended family was all on the East Coast. So my first flight was at 8 months old. So I've always loved to travel. I studied abroad in Spain in high school one summer and lived with a Spanish family and spoke Spanish from morning till night. So I kind of just got the bug early and was an art history major in college. So my love for art and, spending time in Europe, I studied in Florence, Italy for a semester in college. And then for my career, I went into the hotel industry. I worked for Marriott headquarters for a while and helped build some of their boutique brands back in like 2010 to 2015. So I've always loved it. And then, a friend of mine started Lily Pond Luxury, which is our boutique firm, and asked me to join. And that was 4 years ago. And I was still doing my corporate career. I was in tech at that point, still in marketing, but on the tech side. And so I did this as a side hustle and worked all the time and then made the leap last year to doing this full time. And I absolutely love it. I love the creativity. There's never a dull moment working with clients, learning how to build a business and, that juggling act between, the networking and putting yourself out there, obtaining clients and leads, but also I love working in the business and actually coming up with the custom bespoke itineraries and the kinds of stuff I do, you can't get online, right? I can shut down the Vatican, I can shut down Versailles, those kinds of really unique experiences that are like bucket list moments. That's what I love to bring to life for my clients.
I did recently talk with someone who had one of those after hour Vatican visits, and it sounded amazing. So now I know what to do. So Virginia, how is so tell me about the similarities. So you in a corporate career, right? You have a structure that they guide you in what they want, and then you're like free flowing with entrepreneurial. But tell me the structures you put in place in order to keep yourself sane and organized. What are the things that cross over, and what are you able to do better because you are independent?
Such a great question. Even as a very type A organized person, I struggled with this for a while in the transition last year because I was also had marketing consulting clients too. And so I was trying to figure out how much, of my week is spent on that versus travel versus personal development and networking. So I've found that learning to say no and I'm obsessed with my Calendly and really limiting how many client calls I'll take each day versus my head down time, because actually producing the custom itineraries requires like uninterrupted head down time, so I have to carve out that time. So I try to do that Mondays and Fridays and then hold most of my calls middle part of the week. But I'm always evolving my strategy. I also love the tool Notion, and I'm starting to use that more. I went to a workshop last weekend with a Notion certified coach who kind of talked a lot about systematizing, like how can you get smarter in your business with like lots of templates so that you're not reinventing the wheel. And so with my intake process for clients, I kind of have drafted templates to kind of make everything move faster. So that's kind of where I'm at now in my journey, and just kind of trying to think smarter and how can I really be intentional with my time. And every week is different. Some weeks I'm good at it, some weeks I'm not, but when I'm feeling underwater, I'm like, okay, what meetings on my calendar are necessary today and what maybe could happen later. So it's a juggling act. And I don't think if anyone says that they do it well, I don't know. I think everyone struggles with it.
I mean, it really is, because I feel like anytime there's empty space in our calendar, we just are real. It's almost like, digging a hole in wet sand, like the water just keeps filling up. It just keeps happening. So it is a discipline. And within seconds, I was listening to you, like, navigating, talking with clients, planning their trips. And I could see, like, at one point you've got somebody going to the Greek Isles, the next person's going on safari. Like, it's not the same. So I don't know anything about this app or the Notion. And of course I looked it up real quick, but it's AI version. You want to share a little bit more? Because we have a lot of entrepreneurs on our,
Yeah,
like, how does
it's more. Yeah, it's more like an organization tool. Like last year I was dabbling in it. I used it to organize my consulting projects. It's just a little more sophisticated than Google Docs, because there's all these fancy templates you can use for to-do lists and content calendars. I mean, I was just using like probably 5% of the features. And so now I'm kind of trying to become more of an expert in how to use it, but it just helps you stay organized. There are a lot of different ways that people keep their to-do lists, and I don't think there's any perfect way, but that is one way that I'm trying to start systematizing everything.
great. And then getting back with your travel business, kind of as a new entrepreneur going from, corporate to then this, how are you finding like branding yourself and doing it in a way that you're attracting the clients that you want to work with?
Great question. I mean, I would say a large portion of my clients are referrals, which I really love and appreciate. And then, of course, repeat clients that want to do a big international trip every year. I love my retired clients because they're flexible on, seasonality. They can kind of go at any time. But honestly, the big strategy shift that I made last year was some advice that was given to me by a coach that said, you've got to be on LinkedIn. That is where your customers are, right? Because my ideal client is a busy professional that doesn't have time or want to spend hours and hours planning their own trips. So when I made that pivot to posting several times a week, being consistent, writing blogs on LinkedIn, and just engaging with that kind of untapped resource, because it had been my corporate audience. While I was in my corporate career, I never really showcased my travel business just because I was nervous about like anyone from my corporate jobs being like, are you really working over there? You know, and once I left my corporate job, the floodgates opened and I could really kind of use that platform in a different way. And so, and the quality of leads that I get from LinkedIn are actually amazing. And the organic reach is incredible. So that's where I'm really doubling down even more this year.
Well, that's fabulous. I'm going to go stalk your page and see what you're doing. Can you tell me, you mentioned having a coach. So at what point did you decide to hire a coach, and how did you find the right coach?
Yeah, so I will plug Emily Merrill. We met back in 2021 on like a virtual networking group at the height of the pandemic, before we were all vaccinated and couldn't leave our houses. And it was called Lunch Club. And the quality of people I was meeting on that platform was really fantastic. And I met her and we hit it off because we had a shared love of supporting women. I was, at the time, had just finished being president of a nonprofit for women here in Austin, Texas. And we just shared a love for that. So I kind of just kept her in the back of my mind. And then when I decided to go full time on my travel business, I knew, because I hadn't been doing it, I hadn't been focused on it. I knew that my intake process needed work. I knew I needed systems and a better tech stack. I just hadn't had the focus because it wasn't my primary source of income, right? And so I knew I needed support. And I've always been a big believer, you know, in career coaches, which I'd used in the past for my corporate career. So I think about 2 months after I left my corporate job, I hired Emily, and she helped me totally, you know, reimagine my business. And my business was up 500% last year.
Okay, right there. Amazing.
Yeah.
Great
And I'm
plug
hoping
for
to double
Emily.
this
Emily
year.
happens to work with our Revel community. So we are super excited to be able to throw that shameless plug in there as well.
Yeah.
Tell me, so obviously you had to have a mind shift of, you know, okay, this is how you were doing it. When it was a side gig, then you decided you're going to go all in, you hired a coach, and you developed that working relationship. When you have that working relationship, I mean, is there ever a moment where you're like, oh, I don't think I can do that?
No, I loved the accountability, the homework she gave me, the support. You know, it can be isolating. And even though there's about 8 of us on the Lily Pond team, we all have our own book of business. We are all 100% responsible for bringing in our own clients. And so there is a sense of community, like virtual community there, which I love, but it still can be isolating being a solopreneur. And so having that support from a coach, that accountability, was everything for me. You know, someone to bounce. I mean, we would spend whole sessions just ideating on content strategy, honestly, which was super helpful. I mean, she was very flexible with what I needed at the time. And, you know, being a marketer, I was always in these collaborative roles. And so I really needed that sense of collaboration to ideate and come up with my plan.
Okay, that's just that. That's great. That's great. So what's next? What are you doing? Like, as you keep growing, I mean, growing 500% is not a small feat. I mean, do you hope to continue another 500, or are you at like max capacity? How does this work?
Right now I'm hoping to double my business this year, and double it in sales. And then, yeah, I just hired a LinkedIn specialist to help me take my business to the next level on LinkedIn. And she actually asked me an interesting question the other day, which was, what's your capacity? Like, you need to be prepared that if we like 10 times your impressions on LinkedIn, you know, like, are you going to be able to handle the influx, which is a great problem to start brainstorming. And so now I'm kind of thinking like, okay, how many trips a month can I handle? You know, I did 11 in the month of July last year, and that felt like a lot. But I'm kind of doing some research with the industry and some of my colleagues on what, you know, they think everyone can handle. And then I'm still, you know, I want to still pay homage to my 15 years in corporate marketing. And so I am building out a marketing consulting business. I'm really passionate about helping women specifically in the first 10 years of their marketing careers to get promoted. I mentor a lot of younger women in the industry, and I have started to work on some templates that I'm going to sell online, because all my friends that run marketing teams, no one has a direct report that comes to them with like a document, that a data-driven document outlining why they should be promoted, right? When you think about, if you have a corporate career, you know, people are like, I've been in the role a year and a half, I'm ready for a promotion. Like, there aren't a lot of tools out there to actually facilitate that conversation with your manager in a really effective way. And so I'm working on some things that I'll sell online to help aid people, but I want to be really niche and focus on marketers like in tenure, you know, first 10 years of their career, and help that younger audience. So that's something I'm working on too.
Yeah, that's exciting. I feel like that's such a need, because there's so many people in that first 10 years, and even maybe negative too, like they might be in college, and they have natural instincts on how to do engagement with the target people that are buying a lot, like the consumer that's buying a lot. They're living on those social platforms that they are already on, but not recognizing their skills, because it's more natural. They've been doing it for, a few years.
It's inherent, yeah, in them.
So they just don't realize why they're good. So giving them some sort of framework and talking points, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's, I think it just, I think about my own journey, right? And I was lucky that I was right place, right time, got promoted a lot early on in my career when I was on the agency side. But then once I went in-house, you really had to build business cases to get a promotion, even if you were outstanding. I mean, when you're in a 500 person marketing org, it's hard to get noticed, right? And so what are all those things you need to do, from politicking to, getting those stretch projects, getting in front of the right people. People need to know your name. I mean, it's a process, right? And it can be daunting, but if it's all laid out for you, and it's unfortunate because really the HR departments should be doing this, but I'm just really passionate about it.
Yeah, they have a different expertise.
Exactly. So I'm really passionate and excited to work on that.
Yeah. Well, I know we only have a few minutes left. So we started before we did the recording. You were sharing like you have a couple favorite travel tips, like a packing app or something like that. I'd love to hear a couple of those before we end the interview.
Yeah, a couple of things. So, online travel agencies like Expedia, Orbitz, nothing wrong with them, but just a little inside tip that they won't put you in the best rooms in hotels, because the profit margin is going to be lower for the hotel, because they're taking such a large chunk of that nightly rate from them. So another reason to book with either direct or with a travel advisor who, all my clients are VIP'd. So when you check in, they know you. Usually I get you complimentary room upgrades. So you're just kind of treated better. So that's a little insider tip. And then my favorite packing app, because I get asked by clients all the time, is called Packr, Packr. And sometimes I gift it to my clients and think it's about $20 a year. But you literally put in where you're going and the dates, and it pulls through the weather, all the recommendations. Like, you tell them if you're going to special occasions or is it for work, and it pulls in the whole list, and then you can save them. So if like you go to Houston to see family often, you can have that list saved in there. But I think it's totally worth it. And I'm a big fan of that app.
That's
Right,
awesome.
I'm going to tell you why I love that one is I always pack for my own weather instead of packing for the weather I'm traveling to. Even though I look at the calendar, I'll be like, oh, it's very similar to what I am, maybe like 5 degrees cooler, but that 5 degrees is a lot.
Well, also like Florida, 70 degrees, like where I am, is freezing. I mean,
Right.
I'm very cold, it's like, it can be really cold. And then other places it's so warm. Like I just underestimate.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's genius. Like, I'm like, why didn't I think of this? But it's a great app. And then the other thing I'll tell you is, a lot of people ask me about jet lag and my best practices around that. The key is, when you land in Europe or Asia, wherever you are, stay awake. Do not get in bed if you can help it. Try to stay up as late as you can that first day, and you should be set up for success. drink lots of water, get vitamin D, all those things. Walking around the neighborhood, all very helpful.
That's awesome. Did you see last week the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift little hug on the field? I don't know if you saw this, but I mean, you probably saw parts
at the Super Bowl?
At the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
but they kind of had this cute interaction, like, they're so happy, congratulations, you're amazing. And then she goes to walk away and he's like, I can't believe you're not jet lagged. She's like, jet lag is all mental. Or she goes, jet lag is a choice. And then she just walks away.
Well, when you have a private plane and you can lay down with a cashmere blanket. Yeah.
It is a good choice.
We did 5 years in Morocco, and we traveled quite a bit. So I traveled every other month. I would go from the US to Europe. And so I got pretty good at knowing how to deal with that. But it was always the 3 days when you came home, no matter what time I came home, 3 days, I was fine. But those first 2 nights, it was rough.
Yeah.
Third
The
day,
hardest
I
part
was
is
fine.
the mental, like, now this is my time zone. If you start thinking about what it should, back at home, it's this time, then you're not set up.
Oh yeah. We didn't have enough time. We did short weekend. I mean, short, long, whatever, 4 or 5 day weekends. And it was just like a boom, boom. You're there. You do all the hop on, hop offs, and you go to the restaurants, and then you hop on a plane and go back.
That's awesome.
But anyway,
I love
I'm digressing. Virginia, your journey has been inspirational. I love the fact that you're helping women self-advocate, which is such an important thing. Women are often fearful that they don't have their full resume filled out in order to take that next step. And so what you're doing is you're giving them permission to go ahead and take that step, which is fantastic. How can people learn more about you, Lily Pond Travel? Was it Lily Pond Luxury?
Lily Pond Luxury. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Travel with Virginia, or find me on LinkedIn, Virginia Balch.
Fantastic. Well, we are so glad you were able to stop by. From Alison Nissen and Marcy Stoudt, we are Revel Coach Conversations, and we will see you next time.
So great speaking with you. Thank you.
Revel Coach is a collaborative platform that builds leadership programs for entrepreneurs, coaches, executives, and authors. For more information, visit us at revelcoach.com and follow us on LinkedIn to never miss an update.